still at the Noosa Council event celebrating volunteers. And this is Fiona Ewington. Fiona, you're from the Ironman group. But tell us, what are the areas of your group where you use and work with volunteers in Noosa?
So, Ironman, we put on mass participation sports, mainly triathlons. And here in Noosa, we have the largest triathlon in the world, which is the Noosa Triathlon.
No.
It's the largest in the world because of all the participants, not because it's the longest distance.
Yeah.
We also do the runaway marathon in Noosa, which is in May. And last year we had between 5,000 and 6,000 competitors out on the street. And we could not put on these events without our loyal volunteers. And our volunteers are members of the community who come along as part of a group.
Yes.
They could be part of a sports group. They could be part of a church group. They could be part of a school. And they are all raising funds for their organisation. In addition, we have individual volunteers who come because they want to be part of an event, and part of the fun.
But they don't want to race necessarily.
Not really.
Yeah.
They might be supporting somebody who's out there. And if they are doing that, then it's nice for them to be able to get a good vantage point. So we can put them at the finishing line and so they can greet their loved ones.
So there are benefits built in.
There are always benefits. And of course, everyone gets a volunteer T-shirt as well, a complimentary T-shirt, and we give everyone a snack to keep them going.
Tell me, you distinguish between the groups. So when the groups of volunteers and individual volunteers, how does the group thing work? So if I'm in a church group or a tennis group, how does that work?
Well, if you are, for instance, part of one of our groups, which is the Taunton Tennis Club.
Yes.
They started off bringing one person. They started off bringing one person to volunteer, and the more he enjoyed it, we treated him just like he was a group of 20. Yes. And before long, he was bringing 20 people to volunteer. And one of the roles that they do is here on Kimberley Terrace at the Noosa Tri and at the Runaway Noosa Marathon. They will be looking after spots along here, and they raise funds for their group. Everybody, the more people that come and the more hours that they do, the more funds that they raise.
How do they raise the funds?
Well, everyone has to register with us. Yes. Then at the end of the event, we calculate how many people came and we provide them with a donation. And it's all tax-free.
So the Ironman group actually gives them a donation to use in their group however they want.
This year, we paid almost 65,000 to volunteer groups here in Noosa, for volunteering at the Noosa Triathlon and at the Runaway Noosa Triathlon. We had almost 1,000 volunteers, those two events. Some volunteers came to both events. Some volunteers do multiple shifts, multiple events. Some people just do one shift. Everybody's welcome. We like to make sure that everyone's looked after. But everyone has to adhere to our Ironman policies and work health and safety procedures, and everyone does an induction. And we make sure that everyone is happy, healthy and safe and hydrated. And part of the event, I work with a really awesome crew of people. We couldn't, it's absolutely a team effort. And I will bring them in to the event. And then it's up to the rest of the team who are looking out on the course and out on the field to make sure that they have a great time. But the people who really make it worthwhile for them are the athletes, because the athletes are always so grateful and they thank each and every volunteer for their role, because they wouldn't be able to get to the finishing line without our volunteers. So it's a win-win. It's full of love.
And do you do an end-of-year celebration or end-of-event with all your volunteers?
We used to. We don't do that so much anymore because everyone's so damper on a lot of those things. Yeah, and everyone's so busy.
Yes.
So trying to get everyone together, and one group, we used to bring just a group list, but they're always so busy. And unfortunately, putting something on for 1,000 people, there's never a good day, there's never a good time. But we thank everybody, and everyone gets a T-shirt and a little bit of love from everyone.
That's great. Tell me, how hard is it to get volunteers? You're on the program.
Well,
is it a hard slog? Somebody said to me that after COVID, the number of volunteers dropped, and now it's starting to improve. How are you finding it?
It's a really good question, because depending on the groups that come. So, for instance, we have the Noosa Dolphins, who are rugby board, and they bring a group every year because they're raising funds for their under-15s team to go to New Zealand. So generally, they will bring people the correct amount, a good number, because they're raising funds to go away. For groups like the Noosaville View Club, who are, the majority of them are retired, or the Noosa Men's Shed, or the Noosa Lions Clubs, we have all three Lions Clubs with us. The Noosa Heads Lions Club, the Toronto Noosa Lions Club, and the Koroy Pomonan Lions Club. They all participate at the Noosa Triathlon, but they're not getting younger members through. That's where their numbers get short. But then we have new groups like the Noosa Women's Shed. So there's a new vibe going on amongst the women who are learning to, put shelves up, use their tools, and learn how to do things that their husbands used to always do. And we help the boys with cooking sometimes. I know that sounds a little bit sort of like them and us, but it's a community thing. Depending on how many people they can bring, the age group that they can bring, we don't generally put them in shed or anybody who's of a retirement age in an active job, such as at an aid station. Yes, it's pretty full on if you're handing out water. The women should like to do course marshalling, because they can bring a chair. Their role is to make sure that the cyclists are safe out on the road. If anyone falls over, they have to contact EOC, our emergency operations centre. They're also there to sort of let anybody know that there's a race going on. The roads will be open at a particular time. But that role, on a good day, can be a sit-down role. They can bring their own chair, and they can cheer on the cyclists as they go by. And they have a vantage point. They've got a fantastic vantage point. And then the schools and the rugby clubs and any sporting group with young people, we tend to put on an aid station. The Noosa Cyclones basketball team, they've brought several groups of volunteers over the years, and they just do such a fantastic job.